Every trade that happens changes the league to some degree. But what about the trades that didn't happen?
Russell Wilson being a pipe dream for the Bears certainly clanked around a little bit on the old Twitterverse machine.
These 10 trades would have reshaped franchises, altered dynasties, and completely changed the careers of some of the biggest names in football. Brian Burns to the Rams. 2022. At the 2022 trade deadline, the Rams offered the Panthers a monster package for edge rusher Brian Burns, 2 first-round picks and a second-rounder. But the Panthers said no. Scott Fitterer, Carolina's general manager, saw Burns as a foundational piece. The Panthers had just fired Matt Rule. They did not want to look like they were tanking. They wanted to show the locker room that they were still trying to compete. So they kept Burns. They tried to sign him to a long-term extension. Burns wanted $30 million per year, and, well, the two sides just couldn't agree. The Panthers went 2-15 the next season, the worst record in the NFL. Not long after, Burns was demanding a trade, and Carolina's leverage was all gone. The bidding war that never happened. The Panthers finally shipped him to the New York Giants for a second-round pick and a swap of fifth-rounders. Oof, talk about fumbling the bag there. Russell Wilson to the Bears. 2021. 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, 2 starters. That's what the Bears offered the Seahawks for Russell Wilson in March of 2021. Ryan Pace, Chicago's general manager, was all in, putting together one of the most aggressive trade packages in recent memory after Wilson had named the Bears as one of the 4 teams that he would waive his no-trade clause for. Needless to say, Chicago was prepared to mortgage its future. And man, after seeing how another crazy aggressive trade package for Wilson, the cursed one that Denver put together, played out, Pace has to be thanking his lucky stars that this deal fell through because, man, the Seahawks were hell-bent on getting one of the stars off of Chicago's defense as a part of that package. Raiders refused to trade Khalil Mack across the bay. 2018. In September of 2018, the Oakland Raiders were shopping Khalil Mack, the 2016 Defensive Player of the Year who had held out all of training camp. More than half of the league called. The Bears, Jets, and 49ers all made some very serious offers. And I mean, the 49ers went hard here. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but we tried like heck to acquire Khalil Mack, Lynch told 95.7 The Game. I continue to think that we offered a better deal than Chicago. But instead, the Raiders took Chicago's offer of 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and a 6th-round pick. A move many suspect they made because of the rivalry between the two franchises. Ben Rothlessberger to the Rams. 2010. Believe it or not, but the Steelers actually tried to trade Ben Roethlisberger. In 2010, Roethlisberger was suspended for 6 games following allegations of sexual assault. It was later reduced to 4, but his reputation was in shambles at that point, and Pittsburgh's front office was growing tired of his off-the-field antics. According to multiple reports, the Steelers approached the St. Louis Rams about a trade. Pittsburgh wanted a high draft pick in exchange for their franchise quarterback. The Rams said no. At the time, it seemed like a reasonable decision. The Rams had the first overall pick in the 2010 draft, they were rebuilding, Sam Bradford was the consensus top quarterback prospect. Well, Bradford showed some flashes, but never quite developed into a franchise quarterback. Stephon Diggs chose Buffalo over the Jets. 2020. By the spring of 2020, Diggs was done in Minnesota. So, after the season ended, Diggs' options crystallized. It was Buffalo or the Jets. So he picked the Bills, and the trade sent shockwaves through both franchises. Minnesota used that first-round pick on a receiver out of LSU named Justin Jefferson. Buffalo, Diggs unlocked Josh Allen. In his first season with the Bills, Diggs led the NFL with 127 catches and 1,535 receiving yards. And, of course, the Jets, well, they sadly remained the Jets. Bills wanted Christian McCaffrey 2022. So before Christian McCaffrey became the centerpiece of San Francisco's offense, the Buffalo Bills were circling, and man, we could be looking at a completely different NFL landscape had they been able to pair him with Josh Allen. So back in October of 2022, the Panthers had just fired Matt Rule. McCaffrey was the most valuable asset on the roster. The Bills desperately needed a dynamic running back. Josh Allen was doing just everything himself. Adding McCaffrey seemed like the missing piece. So Bills GM Brandon Beane called the Patriots multiple times. He stayed in touch throughout the entire process, but he never made a firm offer. Yes, that was the last draft I was there in Carolina. Know him well, Beane told reporters. When you hear he's on the block, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence to not look into it. I did speak to the Panthers GM. never made him an offer, but did stay in touch throughout the process. So why didn't Buffalo pull the trigger? Ultimately, it was going to be more than we were going to be able to do. Well, the 49ers didn't hesitate. They offered second, third, and fourth round picks in 2023, plus a fifth rounder in 2024. McCaffrey went on to lead the NFL in rushing in 2023, won Offensive Player of the Year, and helped San Francisco reach the big game. The Bills brought in Nyheim Hines instead. And every time McCaffrey torches a defense, Buffalo fans wonder what could have been. Larry Fitzgerald to the Eagles, 2008. Larry Fitzgerald should have been an Eagle. In 2008, the Arizona Cardinals were strapped for cash. Fitzgerald was due to make $14.6 million that year and $17.3 million the next. The back end of his rookie contract had the team over a barrel with a gigantic cap number. The Eagles gave a Colin. And according to Fitzgerald himself, Philadelphia offered a first-round pick and a third-round pick for the perennial All-Pro receiver. Arizona seriously considered it. But ultimately, the Cardinals signed Fitzgerald to a 4-year, $40 million extension with a no-trade clause, keeping their franchise cornerstone in place. Here's the twist, though. Later that same season, the Eagles and Cardinals met in the NFC Championship game. Fitzgerald destroyed Philadelphia. 9 catches, 152 yards, and 3 touchdowns, en route to the Cardinals winning the contest 32-25 to advance to Super Bowl 43. The Eagles suffered their 4th NFC Championship loss of the decade and got torched by the receiver that they almost traded for. Fitzgerald went on to become the second leading receiver in NFL history. He played his entire 17-year career in Arizona. And the Eagles? Well, they just spent years searching for a true number 1 receiver. 1 trade rejection turned into 1 championship game destruction. Deshawn Watson to the Saints, 2022. The New Orleans Saints did everything right, and yet it still wasn't enough. The Saints were the only team to get a second meeting with Watson. Owner Gail Benson flew in personally. They restructured contracts across the roster to clear up cap space. Watson, meeting with Benson twice, signaled serious interest. And then Friday morning happened. Watson's agent called the Browns, the team Watson had eliminated 24 hours earlier, and said Cleveland was back in play. The Browns offered something no other team would or could match: a 5-year, $230 million contract that was fully guaranteed. The Saints could not compete with that. Neither could Atlanta. The Panthers had already been eliminated because they wouldn't guarantee 3 years or 4 years. So Watson chose the money. He went to Cleveland. And as a result, Baker Mayfield got sent on the odyssey that has since landed him in Tampa Bay. And while the Saints haven't made the most of their epic bullet dodge, there is no denying that they ended up in a way better spot than the Browns. Pete Rozelle blocked John Elway to the Raiders, 1983. The Raiders thought that they had John Elway. The deal was done. Al Davis had put together a package the Colts couldn't refuse: 3 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for the number 1 overall selection. Ernie Accorsi, Baltimore's general manager, later confirmed that it would have been the best package ever for Elway. There was just one little problem. Davis needed another first-round pick to make the math work. Pete Rozelle voided the trade. Rozelle and Davis hated each other. Davis had been AFL commissioner during the merger negotiations in 1966, and Rozelle edged him out for the unified NFL commissioner job. Davis later sued the NFL over his franchise's move to Los Angeles, and he won, collecting $35 million in damages. And as a result, the Broncos acquired Elway for a far inferior package: backup quarterback Mark Herman, tackle Chris Hinton, and a first-round pick. Elway went on to win 2 Super Bowls and become one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Randy Moss and Aaron Rodgers almost became Raiders/Packers, 2007. During the 2007 NFL Draft, the Raiders were shopping Randy Moss. He had been a disaster in Oakland, just 43 catches the year before, and they wanted out. 2 teams that were seriously interested: Green Bay and New England. Allegedly, the Raiders floated a trade that would have sent Moss to Green Bay in exchange for Aaron Rodgers. Think about that. Rodgers was a backup entering his 3rd year, an unproven commodity sitting behind Brett Favre. The Packers had Favre committed to play in a few more years. Moss would give him a weapon to chase another Super Bowl, and Rodgers might never get a chance in Green Bay anyway. Raiders held the 1st overall pick in the 2007 draft. If they had gotten Rodgers, they could have traded that pick or selected Calvin Johnson at number 2. But sadly, the 2 sides just couldn't agree on the additional draft compensation. The Raiders wanted 4, and the Packers would budge. So the trade shifted to a simpler version. Moss for a draft pick. And Green Bay was outbid by New England because they wouldn't budge from a 5th-round pick. Which, in retrospect, is very hilarious and a terrible move. But which NFL trade do you think would have had the biggest ripple effect on the league? Who do you think we're right on here? Who do you think we're wrong about? Was there anyone that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then hey, clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.